and it's cast on day. Pretty excited about this. It's cast on day for our Campside Cardigan knit along. So if you don't have your pattern yet, hop on over to the Ravelry link that I'll put down below in the video description where you can get your pattern from now until tomorrow, the 20th. You can get 25% off the cost of the pattern by using the code JANA25, lowercase j, JANA25. So be sure to hop over and do that and join us. We'd love to have you. So it's cast on day, but before I cast on, there's a few things, preparation things that I want to show you that I like to do before I get started. One is go through your pattern and read it carefully so that you're pretty sure you understand what's going on. Now, I'll be here to help you with things that you may not know. If you're a brand new knitter, that's totally fine. If this is your first sweater, you can do this. So look through the abbreviations at the end of the pattern. If there's one you're unsure of, be sure to ask in the group. Also, go through and mark your size. Now, there's been a couple of questions in the group about all the numbers in the parentheses and the brackets. And all that means is you want to measure yourself around the widest part of your bust. And then you just decide, do I want this to be form-fitting or do I want a little bit of extra? The extra is called positive ease. Go through the pattern, though, and find your pattern measurement and highlight or circle that throughout the whole pattern so you'll know what number you're looking for whenever you come to a stitch count. All right, so be sure to do all that ahead of time. Set yourself up for success, right? We want to get started on the correct foot or needle. And then we're going to begin with the Longtail Cast On. So I started out by winding all of my yarn. Now you're going to hear me talk about the tonal variations that I found with this particular yarn. If you're using the Urth yarn with me, like what I am, you'll notice a lot of variations between lighter to darker on the inside. I'm going to try to mitigate that so that I have kind of a gradual fade in my sweater because I wasn't sure I wanted stripes. Now, if I alternate skeins between dark and light in those shades, I'm going to get stripes. And I just wasn't sure I wanted stripes. It's beautiful. You can see some sweaters that people have done with this yarn that have that, and it's fantastic. It's just personal preference. I may end up going back to that if my idea doesn't work, but we'll see. Before we cast on, I want to welcome 2 new patrons this week. Thanks so much to Vicky Schroeder and Sara Hohn for supporting this channel. Patrons are what helps bring these videos to you each and every week. So if you're interested in checking out my page over on Patreon, I have some perks for a different level of pledges each month. So go check that out at patreon.com/Purl Together. All right, let's cast on. Okay, I'm going to begin my Longtail Cast On, and I'm going to begin using the inside and the outside of this particular cake because I don't like doing the Longtail Cast On where I have to figure out how long the tail should be and I have to measure all that. So I'm just making a slip knot with both of my ends together. Okay, this is also super handy if you don't want to measure, and 2, if you don't want to, if you're going to run short a little bit on yarn, and seriously every yard counts, then you don't want to waste yarn by overestimating your long tail. Both of those on the needle, and I'm just going to pick whichever one is going to be my wrap it around yarn and whichever one is not. So you go in underneath and you wrap and you do your long tail cast on the way you normally do. Now I do it differently where I hold one in my right hand as if I'm knitting, and a lot of people do this all with their left hand in one motion. Now we're going to drop the slip knot that we made because it's a double, so you don't want to count that in your initial count. Okay, so you go ahead and cast on the amount that you need. I do have a video about this particular long tail cast on method, and you can find that link in the upper right hand corner of your screen as well as down below in the video description. All right, I finished my cast on, and I know that I have the correct number here. I've double counted it. Now I just need to decide which of these 2 things I'm going to cut. Now, do you want to work off the inside or the outside of the cake? And whichever one you don't prefer to do is the one you cut. Now, I don't like knitting from the inside of the center pull because I don't like that how it collapses. And I know you can get those yarn cozy things, and to me, that's just one more thing for me to have to keep track of. So I would prefer to knit off the outside of the cake. So I'm cutting the one that comes from the inside. And then I'll just stuff that tail. This is going to be my long tail now. And I'll just push that back down into the center part of my cake. And now I'm ready to do the beginning of the pattern. And all you need to do when you get to this other end is drop that slip knot off. So then at the end, when all is said and done, you will have this tail here, and then you'll have these other ones to weave in, but that's really not a big deal. All right, we're ready for the setup row. Okay, I'm to the end of the wrong side setup row, and you're thinking, why, I'm only supposed to have 2 pearls left. Well, really, I only do have 2 pearls stitches left. This other business is that double slip knot, remember? But I did look at it and go, wait, why do I have 4 stitches left? So the point here also is that you need to make sure you double count everything. This is your setup row, so you want to get off on a good start. Make sure, I can't apparently purl and talk at the same time. Make sure you double count everything between your markers before you carry on past this row so that you know your foundation, so to speak, is correct. So there, I'm just going to leave that. I'm going to drop that off and I'm going to leave it right like it is for now. Okay, I've dropped off that slip knot. I'm ready to begin my first increase row. And now I'm going to add in my second skein since I'm alternating. Now all I'm going to do here is, I'm going to leave 4 or 5 inches that is adequate for me to weave in later. So I want enough of a tail that I can weave it in securely later, probably doing some duplicate stitch. But for now, I'm just going to start knitting with it. So I'm just going to do that first row and then start my increases. So I'm going to increase by knitting into the front and the back loop. Okay, I'll show you that again slowly. Go in through the front, just like a regular knit stitch. Don't take it off though. Swing that right needle around and knit into the back of the same stitch. So that's really easy, knit front and back. And then you're going to carry on knitting across to 1 stitch before the next marker. Do the same thing on each sides of those markers. So every time we come to a marker, we're going to knit front and back on each side of it, and we're increasing 8 stitches each time we do this right side increase row. Okay, here we go again. Knit into the front like normal. Don't take it off. Just swing that right needle around and knit into the back. Slip your marker. And I like to have the bead part of the marker toward me so that when I wrap, I'm not wrapping around and increasing the size of my stitch by accidentally wrapping over the bead. Definitely don't want to do that. Okay, whoops, so make sure that that's right. Knit through the front and the back. All the wrong side rows you're going to purl. And you're just going to repeat these increase rows until you have your proper stitch count. A couple of other things I want to mention as we go along here is, see how I'm alternating skeins, and mine is such a stark difference in starting to make stripes. So I'm not sure how I feel about that. But that's also going to change as I increase the number of stitches. And as I get, further down into either of these cakes, the colors are going to shift a little bit. But, if I don't care for it, I'll tear it out. And I'm okay with that because this is a sweater I'm going to have for a really long time. So if I need to, take out 30 minutes worth of knitting, then I'm fine with that. The other thing I wanted to mention is, if you'll notice, the numbers between your markers, not on the edge here, but the numbers between your markers will always be even numbers. So because you're increasing 1 stitch here and 1 stitch here, if you do a count just to double check yourself and you come up with an odd number between the markers, then you have a mistake somewhere. So you're going to want to track that down and, tink or tear back until you find out where you missed the increase. Likely you've just missed one. And if you look really close, you can see what the front and back increases look like. If you can see that purl bump right there, hopefully the camera's focusing and you can see that purl bump, what looks like a purl bump, that's when you've knitted into the back of the stitch. So you knit in the front and knitting the back causes that little bar. So if you look back and read your knitting and you see that you've missed one of those, yeah, you'll know how far back you need to go to correct that if you end up with an odd number between your markers. All right, so I did in fact take out the stripe thing and I started again just using the lighter sections of the cakes that I have. So I'll show you what I'm doing because I know many of you may have this yarn that's very, very tonal. And I wasn't digging the stripes, honestly, so let me show you. Like in this cake, for example, you can see this is really light on the outside, and then it goes much darker, and then it's lighter kind of again. So what I'm doing is knitting off the outside of this one right now while I have the light tones that kind of match what I have going on here. And then when that's done, and I get into this darker section here, I'll just go to a different cake and do the same thing. So this one, I may knit some of this. And so I'm just kind of alternating things around. And what I'm hoping will happen, and this is an experiment, what I'm hoping will happen is that I'll start with this lighter color here, and as I go down the sweater, it'll get darker, darker, darker. It'll be a gradual darkening. So I'm not sure yet how I'll handle the sleeve part, but that's my thought, because I just didn't really want a striped sweater. And so the stripes would be cool. I mean, if that's what you prefer, then that would be much easier, certainly. But I wanted more of a gradual blending. So hopefully that'll work. We'll see. Anyway, I'm going to continue with these increase rows where you're just increasing before and after each marker until you have the correct number of stitches for your size. I hope you found that video helpful. Cast On, show me your work in progress. Show me the yarn you're using. Be sure to tell me all the good information. I love all the details. What is the yarn? Where did you get it? All those things. Over in the Ravelry group, we have threads going for the knit along. There'll be a couple of Cast On prizes. We do have a prize thread going for swatching as well. We all know how important swatching is, so there is some swatch swag being offered up over there, and I have a couple of Cast On prizes too. So I'll set up those threads, go over there and post a picture of your Cast On. I'd love to see you in the Ravelry and Facebook groups. The links for those are down below. And if you're interested in becoming a patron, I would welcome your support. Thank you so much. All right, thanks for watching. Happy Cast On Day.